And we're skipping this. Kazuma, Magiri, and Shiranui have interrupted the battle for some fucking reason and are strange, mysterious men. And you know what? We're gonna ask him to train us. And the reason is because we want to watch over everyone while you're gone, Kondo-san. I love this scene, though. Bamboo stick in hand, I moved into the familiar stance that I memorized during my training. Like a whip, his harsh words stung as he barked.
いいか、正面から切り合いになった時、真っ先に間合いに入るのは刀であり、刀を持つ手でもある。握りが甘ければ、その時点で容易に刀を落とされてしまう。これは気をつけねばならん。
はい。He hit me with the full blunt of his stringent teachings. I could see he was taking this seriously. He wasn't going easy on me because I was a girl.
今度は固く握りすぎているな。君の場合、腕力の問題で敵の斬撃を正面から受け止めるのは避けるべきだ。となると、自然斬撃を受け流す形になるが、この場合だと逆に固く握りすぎていては。
With Kondo-san's instruction, I practiced swinging the sword over and over, doing my best to learn and retain everything he was teaching me.
もうこんな時間か。
His words brought my head up and I blinked. The sun set without me realizing, pooling below, and the sky was now shades of red and purple. Suddenly, in the real world again, fatigue slammed into me and I collapsed to my knees. Thank you for doing this for me. Every limb was shaking, my clothes completely drenched in sweat. I sucked in air like I couldn't get enough of it. Kondo-san glanced over to me when I fell into the ground, and his strict teachings expression immediately switched to one of deep concern. Dad!
すまなかった雪村君。俺としたことがついつい熱が入ってかなり無茶な練習を。
I'm fine. The fact that you forgot and ended up teaching me that way, even though I'm not your student. Thank you. It made me really happy.
そうか。そう言ってもらえると少しは救われる気がするよ。
His face was a mixture of relief and guilt.
しかし本当にすまなかった。こんな風に稽古をつけるのは久しぶりで、昔を思い出してつい厳しくしてしまったよ。
You mean before you came to Kyo?
その通り。俺とトシ、宗司に源さんは司令官という道場で天然理心流を学んでね。それ以外に三男君、東堂君、長倉君、原田君が転がり込んでいたよ。そういえば斉藤君も顔を出していたな。今は機会も減ったが、あの頃はよく互いに手合わせもしたものだ。
Alright, we're skipping this scene. We're choosing to investigate. I'm going to muster the courage to look into this. But where should I investigate? I have to do this whole thing, don't I? Yes, I do. My room is in the Yagi house. There are some rooms that I'm not allowed to enter, but the captains live here as well, and I'd finally learned how to navigate the building. There. However, there was another building that was part of the headquarters for the Shinsengumi aside from the Yagi house. Some of the leaders, along with other warriors, live in the Maekawa house diagonal from Yagi. And Sana-san, who's injured, had been holed up in the Nambu residence located behind Yagi. Since it's a residence, one cannot just stroll there casually, and since it's barely used by anyone other than Sana-san, it's a little isolated. If there are secrets being kept from me, then they have to be kept in a place that I'd never think to check. If I were to look into it, it would either be in the In the or forbid sentence. Why? If I were to look for it, it would either be in the forbidden areas of the Ragias residence. Wait, what? English? What? No, my brain's confused after reading that. Huh? Anyway, we investigate the Yagi house. Okay, I see. Ooh, whoops. We investigate. Yes, the Yagi house. It was the night at the Yagi house and dead silent. I tiptoed down the halls as quietly as possible. Huh? Were my ears playing tricks on me, or did someone just walk into the common room? I would be in trouble if someone saw me, so I did my best to blend into the shadows and hide. After a few moments of heart-pounding seclusion, my curiosity got the best of me. I departed my hiding place and crept towards the common room. I peered inside. Inside was Sun-on-Sun. I wonder why. Something felt wrong. I just stood there. What is Sun-on-Sun doing here late at night? I was at a loss. Should I speak to him, or... Before I could make up my mind, he turned. Ooh, it has good character design, you say.
まさか君に見つかるとはね。正直予想していませんでしたよ。
Sun-on-Sun gazed directly at me and muttered.
雪村くん、そこにいるのでしょ？出てきなさい。
He knows we're here! I guess he spotted me. Alright. I gave up and made myself visible to Sun-on-Sun. I'm sorry if it seemed like I was snooping or watching you. Or watching what you were doing.
別に叱るつもりはありませんよ。
You don't plan on scolding me, which, I feel like you scold me every time, Sun-on-Sun.
夜中に怪しい人影を見かけたら気にかかるのは当然でしょうしね。
Hmm? It was very subtle, but I noticed something was off in Sun-on-Sun's attitude. He had a peaceful smile, something I hadn't seen for what felt like ages. It was a bit too peaceful, as if his worries had suddenly left him. It was an expression I have never seen since he got injured. Sun-on-Sun, did something good happen?
ええ、ありましたよ。というより、ようやく決心できたと言うべきでしょうか。
Something swished in his hand. Sun-on-Sun, what is that?
これが気になりますか？
After his cryptic reply, he showed me what was in his hand. Sanan was holding a small bottle made from fine idro. The glass was filled with a crimson liquid that looked like a poisonous chemical to me.
これは君の父親である光道さんが幕府の密使を受けて作った薬です。
What? The shogun had ordered my father to do something?
もともと西洋から渡来したものだそうですよ。人体に劇的な変化をもたらす飛躍としてね。
What do you mean by utterly transform?
単純な表現をすると筋力や自己治癒力の増強でしょうか。
It sounded like something out of a fairy tale. If such a thing were to truly exist, the serum would be considered a miracle cure, but...
しかしこの薬には致命的な欠陥がありました。
His smile twisted only a little.
強すぎる薬の効能が人の精神を狂わすに至ったのです。薬を飲んだ人間がどうなったか、その姿は君も目にしたことがありますね。
Of course. I'd seen the result of that madness the night I first met the Shinsengumi. Okita and Saito killed off that monster with the white hair.
君は察しがいいですね。そう、あの時の大使たちですよ。薬を与えられた彼らは理性を失い、血に狂う化け物となり果てました。
His words brought a sharp chill down my spine. How horrible.
切り合いの最中、血が流れるたびに狂っていては強靭な肉体を手に入れた意味がありません。高堂さんは新選組という実験場でこの薬の改良を行っていたのですよ。
No! My father? Conducting experiments on human beings that made them go mad at the sight of blood? I couldn't believe it. No, I didn't want to believe it. But there was no reason for Sanan-san to lie either. I saw it before my eyes. Then, did father really... Sanan-san shrugged off my disbelief and continued.
しかし残念ながら彼は行方不明となり、薬の研究は中断されてしまいました。高堂さんが残した資料をもとにして私なりに手を加えたものがこれです。
He smirked and shook the bottle gently. The liquid inside sloshed from side to side almost lazily.
その原液をできる限り薄めてあります。
I had so many questions to ask him, but I didn't even know where to start, so I simply spoke the first thing that came to mind. If you drink that, will you be okay? So that serum, will it prevent you from going mad?
まだわかりません。誰にも試していないものですから。
His smile faded.
ですが、飲めば私の腕は治ります。薬の調合が成功さえしていれば。
You mean you're actually considering taking it? He had no guarantee that it wouldn't simply kill him outright. And even if he did survive, it might well drive him insane. Sanan-san, please reconsider this. I'm sure there's some other way. You don't need to rely on this.
こんなものにでも頼らなければ私の腕は治らないのですよ。私はもはや用済みとなった人間です。普通の大使まで陰口を叩いているのは知っています。あなたにはわからないでしょうね。大いなる志を持って同志と共に江戸から登ってきたというのに、何の役にも立てぬままお情けで重職を与えられている私の気持ちなど。
How could you say it's pity? You're a leader here. The Shinsengumi respects and needs you now more than ever. Sanan-san's eyes dotted with melancholy, flashing a brief smile that entertained the idea behind my words.
よく覚えていますよ。私は剣客としても この新選組に必要なのですよね。
Sana-san seemed bitterly focused on the words Hijikata-san said earlier. They really did affect him.
剣客として死に、ただ生きた屍になれというのであれば、人としても死なせてください。
No!
失敗すると決まったわけではありません。そう分の悪い賭けではありませんよ。
Sana-san smiled as he said that, but there was no way to know what might happen to him. Considering the worst that could happen, I couldn't sit by and allow him to do this. I persuade him! Because I don't feel like screaming today. Thanks, Okita-root. I still don't think you should take that serum. It's a higher chance that it'll fail, right? If the others knew that you were here doing this, they would all try and stop you.
確かに東堂君あたりは落胆するかもしれませんね。彼は人がいいですから。
Although at first he was beginning to reconsider, but my faint hope was shattered with words of resignation.
もし私が死んだら、東堂君によろしく伝えてください。
What?
君にまで同情されるとは、私も落ちたものです。
Those were his last words. He suddenly gulped down the red liquid stored in the bottle of fine idro. No! The bottle slipped from Sana-san's hands and crashed into 1,000 tiny bits on the floor. Thousands teeny tiny bits. A scarlet drop oozed down from the corner of his lip. Sana-san crumbled to the floor. Sana-san! I paused, uncertain. He had groaned in agony and pulled his hand back to grip his chest over his heart. It's clear he was suffering. Hang in there! I'll go get someone right now! I took a step forward, about to place my hand gently on his back. Ah! His right arm whipped out, almost too fast to see, and threw me across the room. I slammed into the wall and slid to the floor. I could barely breathe. My vision went blurry for a moment. I coughed once and looked up. Just in time to see Sana-san land on top of me, his hands already reaching for my throat. His right arm reached for my throat, and he relentlessly started to choke me. The hands around my throat were Sana-san's, but the man behind them was someone else. His white hair glistened in the dim light. His bright, maddening red eyes showing through his bangs. I knew those eyes. His eyes were the eyes of a predator, not a man. I saw eyes just like the night I arrived in Kyo. Those creatures in the alley, drenched in blood. Monsters. As he choked me, I desperately tried to keep breathing. No, this wasn't a monster. This was Sana-san. He was still the man I knew. Son. Suddenly, the fingers around my neck loosened. Daddy? Just let me go? crumpled to the floor, and I gasped for air through a throat still red with his handprint. My tearful eyes caught sight of Sanan-san, whose hair now shined white brilliantly.
失敗したようですね。私は意外と賭けに弱かったようで。
In the depth of those red eyes, there was a faint sign of reason. Sanan-san, are you back?
雪村君、頼みがあります。今のうちに私を殺してください。
What? His words weren't registering in my head, and I could do nothing but look into his eyes.
薬は失敗です。すでに私の意識はなくなりかけている。このままでは君を殺してしまうでしょう。
No! In this moment, memories of when I first arrived in Kyo and of the Ikeda incident flashed before me. I witnessed so many deaths in this time. I came to terms with the idea that for a member of the Shinsengumi, death is a constant. But never could I imagine taking someone's life. Most of all, Sanan-san's. No, I can't. I couldn't do that. I mean, you're still you, Sanan-san.
君という子はこんな時だというのに。それでもやりなさいと言っているんです。
Sanan-san shouted at me and grabbed my collar. I could see his red eyes flickering. Sanan-san struggled with his remaining willpower to fend against the madness boiling inside of him.
やらなければ君が死ぬのです。この場にたまたま居合わせただけの君にそんな役割を申し付けて申し訳ないとは思いますが。
His right hand slid off my throat, and I felt it land on the hilt of my sword. Huh? What is he doing? As I stood there confused, Sanan-san's fingers wrapped around the handle and began to pull. Oh no. No! Too late, I realized what he meant to do, and I felt ice creep up my spine. Sanan-san, please! You can't! I tried with all my might to pry his arm away and prevent him from drawing the sword, but...
この薬の影響下にあっても心臓さえ止まれば死ねますから。
I can't.
この
He spoke in starts and stops now, as tendrils of madness began to pull him under.
死ぬ。
My sword was now completely drawn, and he pointed it towards his breast over his heart. Sanan-san! Just as the white, shining tip of the blade was about to pierce his heart. Sanan-san screamed in anguish, dropping the sword he was gripping. Sanan-san! What just happened? When I ran towards him, Sanan-san collapsed to the floor. Sanan-san! Hang in there! Sanan-san! I ran over to him and rushed to check his pulse. He's still breathing. He only lost consciousness. This alone gave me a great feeling of relief, but suddenly the door behind me slid open. I rushed to look back when...
Sanan-san.
Okita! Sana-san, he's... Okita had a cold expression.
どいてくれる?
His eyes narrowed, and I saw them flick around the room, from Sana-san's limp body to myself to the shattered vial. Okita's mouth tightened, and he bent down to lift Sana-san off the floor.
あの薬を飲んだ直後って内臓を握りつぶされるぐらい苦しいらしいんだ。多分最初の衝撃に耐えかねて気を失っちゃったんだろうね。
After finding that it wasn't life-threatening, I felt a pang of relief.
でも本当の苦しみはこれからなんだけどね。三男さんにはまだ死んでもらうわけにはいかないから頑張ってもらわなきゃ。
Hey, Dad. His tone was surprisingly detached considering the circumstances, and Okita picked up Sanan-san before leaving the room. Once they left, I collapsed to the floor out of supreme exhaustion and slumped into myself. I finally tapped into the secrets of the Shinsengumi. For so long it was kept from me, and now their forbidden secrets were revealed. My mind went blank due to confusion and fear, but I knew what I saw.